Will not be usually. Okay.
Keith, toner's low on this printer, it says.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I will call the December 10th regular council meeting to order. First order of business is adoption of the agenda. Administration, do you have any changes?
Yes, Your Worship. We could ask council to allow the public hearing to come ahead of the delegation. I've spoken to both delegations, and they're fine with that. We do advertise a public hearing for 7 o'clock. We could ask council for that. Item 6.3, the planning and development consulting services. The wrong item was put in the agenda package, and the executive assistant has forwarded council the proposal, so council has that. Under the water system lead management requirements, some additional information has been provided to council's handout. And finally, under 13.1 confidential, we ask that that item be deferred to a later date.
Council, do you have any changes for our agenda? Not seeing any. Motion to accept the agenda as amended. Councilor Stanley,
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
debate on the motion, all in favor, and that is carried unanimously. We will move forward to our our public hearing, bylaw 1239-19. And I call that meeting to order. The following public hearing is held pursuant to the Municipal Government Act. The following rules of conduct will be followed during the public hearing. Presentations should be brief and to the point. The order of presentation shall be entry of the written submission, comments from the planning department, those supporting the bylaw, those opposing the bylaw, any other person deemed to be affected by the bylaw. The public hearing purpose is to receive comments from any interested parties on the proposed bylaw. I hereby declare the public hearing relating to bylaw 1239-19 open.
The purpose of bylaw 1239-19 is to establish an intermunicipal development plan pursuant to adopted area structure plan within Lacombe County surrounding the town of Blackfalds and to include the joint economic area. First reading was given to bylaw 1239-19 on November 12th, 2019. Notice of this public hearing was advertised on the website and in the Lacombe Globe, November 27th and December 4th, 2019 editions. The following written comments have been received to December 5th, 2019 from Alberta Transportation and Natural Pipelines.
Are there any late written submissions relating to the bylaw?
Yes, there is, Mr. Chairman. We received one dated today, and we'll read it out as following. Dear Lacombe County, Town of Blackfalds Council members, I'm writing today to voice my opposition to proposed Blackfalds Lacombe County Intermunicipal Development Plan. My concern with the proposed IDP is that it conflicts with the existing Highway 2A Urban Corridor Area Structure Plan adopted by Lacombe County Council less than 2 years ago. My specific area of concern is with the proposed future growth area that has been modified to include the Blackstone and Greystone subdivisions, as well as the acreages north of Greystone in the new future growth area. In the previous IDP, these areas were not included as future growth area, and I feel that the proposed changes to the IDP fail to recognize the commitments of the area structure plan. Commitments that were made to ensure that existing county residents could continue to enjoy existing character and environmental qualities of the area. If the proposed IDP had properly consulted the Highway 2A corridor area structure plan, the future growth area proposed to the north side of the town boundary would not at most align with the future study area outlined in the area structure plan. If you read the area structure plan's growth strategy and subsections of value principles, west of Highway 2A, east of Highway 2A, and phasing of development, it becomes apparent that the county, and more importantly, the county residents, do not support the town of Blackfalds growing north into the areas already identified for future commercial, industrial, and country residential uses. I would ask that council not approve second reading of the bylaw, approving the new IDP, and to refer the IDP back to the committee with instructions to consult existing planning documents to ensure consistency. That was received by Mr. Dean Wigmore, a Macomb County resident.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the planning department? Manager Topolitsky?
Thank you.
As part of the new Municipal Government Act, all municipalities are required to complete an intermunicipal development plan with their neighboring municipalities. This discussion started with Macomb County in 2018 and has been ongoing since then. The revised IDP includes minor changes, a new format, additional sections, and regulation changes to comply with the new MGA. Changes included updates to the introduction, objectives, provincial legislation, population projections, stormwater management, infrastructure, maps, and the additions of plan principles and fire management in order to complete the sections that involve new population projections. The committee members supported the planning department's recommendation, the Blackfalds Population Land Development Analysis Report, which was presented to council as information and endorsement in May of 2019. Administration has integrated these assumptions into the IDP document, which was accepted by the Joint IDP Committee. At the last Joint IDP Committee on August 19th, it was agreed that the mapping would be completed and a Joint IDP open house was held October 10th at the Blackfalds Community Hall. As a follow-up to that public engagement, there was a survey posted on both town and county websites to garner concerns or comments from the residents in the area. Administration of both municipalities agreed that there were no planning concerns or issues that arose from the open house and the survey that would require the IDP to be changed further. As a note that the comments from Alberta Transportation and APCO pipelines are typically dealt with through a subdivision development or redesignation process that both municipalities utilize. One change that will be made to map 2 of the future land use concept is to include the area between Greystone and Highway 2A as part of a long-term growth area. Otherwise, it will be a little isolated. So we've got the Greystone area, and there's a little bit of a bulb where the highway was changed a couple of years ago, and we forgot to include that as part of that area. So that will be changed on the map. So just wanted to let you know that. With respect to Mr. Wigmore's comments, and that I have discussed this also with Macomb County, and the IDP is the overarching document. The area structure plan is a guideline right now. It's a concept also. The south, the Blackstone and Greystone areas were not included in that Highway 2 West concept, Highway 2A West concept plan, because they stopped right at 40-0. So if we look at future development, an IDP is just a plan for potential future development, and it could be years before we get out that area. We didn't want to isolate and have a pocket of Macomb County within a boundary surrounding them of the town of Blackfalds. So that's why they were included now as part of the future potential annexation area. At this time, they are acreages. They're going to stay as acreages. They are under the control of the land use bylaw for the county and not the town. So that is not going to change. If any of the residential areas north of that, they're still zone country residential. They still fall under the county's jurisdiction and not ours, and we would be able to comment on any of the developments that go in.
Thank you. Is there anyone who supports the bylaw and wishes to speak? Is there anyone who opposes the bylaw and wishes to speak? Is there anyone deemed to be affected by the bylaw and wishes to speak? Are there any further comments from the planning department?
I just wanted to let your worship and council know that on Thursday at 9 a.m. in the morning is the public hearing at the county office, and I will be attending that public hearing as the representative of the municipality.
Thank you. Councilors, do you have any further questions? Not seeing anybody? I hereby declare the public hearing related to bylaw 1239-19 to be closed, and I'll accept the motion to adjourn this public hearing. Deputy Mayor Olford,
I'll move to adjourn the public hearing.
debate on the motion, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. We'll now go back to the delegations, and our first delegation is our Parent Link representative, FCSS from Lacombe, Susan McDonald. Thank you very much for coming in, Susan. Before you start, I'd just like to say that Blackfalds recognizes how much work the Lacombe FCSS has done to support our local Parent Link, and your support has allowed the Parent Link to become the success that it has. So I really want to say that we appreciate everything that your organization has done for us.
Thank you very much. Now I will return the congratulations, Mayor Poole and Council. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. On behalf of Lacombe FCSS, Central Parkland Parent Link Network, and your Blackfalds Parent Link team, I'd like to thank you for your belief and support of the Parent Link program. The citizens of Blackfalds can feel very proud of your council's commitment to ensure children and families have the opportunities to grow and to be part of a very active, healthy family community. I must say, I was ecstatic to learn about your decision to provide some bridge funding for the Parent Link staff team here, but I was not surprised knowing your long-term commitment to Parent Link development and to your new center and the program. So thank you so much for that support. Over the past month, we have been faced with an unexpected challenge. In November, Alberta Children's Services announced the termination of a number of programs and service contracts as of March 31st, 2020. So Lacombe District Family and Community Support Services, we've been the host agency for many of these programs and services across Central Alberta, including Central Parkland Parent Link Network, our 5 Parent Link centers that exist in Lacombe, Blackfalds, Rimbey, Panoka, and Wetaskiwin. Our home visitation program, which we cover Lacombe and Panoka area. The Early Years Coalition, rural playgroups in Clyde, Bentley, and Muir, and of course our partner communities, Bentley, Clyde, and Blackfalds. You folks will no longer receive Community Building Initiative Neighborhood Place funding. So in preparation of ending these services as they currently exist, Lacombe FCSS administration and board, we've been working on working with our 5 Parent Link centers, Healthy Families, and our rural playgroups to review our services to the end of March and to ensure that resources are in place to meet all our operational commitments. So when it comes specifically to Central Parkland Parent Link and our 5 Parent Link centers, we're unique in that in our network we have 5 Parent Link centers. Many other Parent Link centers across the province, they're just operating 1 center, where we have 5. So it's a huge endeavor. So when we looked at this, when we first thought, initially we thought, okay, the expression of interest, the Family Resource Network, great idea, we can run with that idea. And then looking closer at the expression of interest, and we realized that the areas were divided into 2 different networks. So the 5 Parent Link centers that we serve, Lacombe and Blackfalds, would remain the same in in one area network, and then Panoka, Rimby, and Wetaskiwin would be assigned to another area. So basically that split us right away. So right away we thought, oh, this is ending as it currently exists, so we had to make preparations. So the first thing we did was we reviewed our budget operations November to the end of December. Then we did a budget review of operations from January to March. And so reviewing some of those things include things like HR, so our staff wages and benefits at full capacity to the end of March, holiday pay, long-term employee agreements, et cetera, because we have many long-term employees across Parent Link. We have the program's been going for 15 years. We have some people that have been with us for 15 years. And of course, we wanted to make sure that we adhere to labor standards and not open any legal obligations and negligence there. So we also had to consider our leases and our lease payouts. We have 5 leases across the network, 3 that are in public venues and 2 that are commercial leases. And so some of those leases require 12 to 18 months notice. We are only able to give 4 months notice. We have great community partners, and we've been able to negotiate those lease payouts down quite considerably from what we potentially could have been paying. So we have other expenses like our audit, utilities, phones, mileage, everyday operational expenses, program materials, and supplies. So we took a look at all those things from January to March and looked at what our last quarter revenue was for the grant. And we determined that we were going to be in a fairly huge deficit. So we had to make some, so we had to come to some solutions as to how can we eliminate this concern. I shared the information with government through our contract specialists and a little bit higher up in government, and they at that time said they were collecting information from other organizations that were facing similar situation, but to this day I haven't received any response back as to whether they would help us do that. So then we proceeded to start determining what we can do to reduce services. Our goal was to make sure that we keep all centers open until the end of March, but it would require reducing services. So that means reduce staff and reduce programs levels. So instead of being a robust Parent Link centers that are open every day of the week, we had to start scaling back and our resources and staff resources to do that. And our goal, in order to do that, our plan was initially to rotate the number of staff that we had remaining around to the 5 centers. And then fortunately, Blackfalds stepped up to the plate and said they would like to remain at full complement staff and agreed to provide some bridge funding for your staffing. As far as your operation of your center will still remain under the home FCSS, and Blackfalds Parent Link Center, we will still take care of those operations until the end of March, including the lease and our every other day operations program services, things that go along with that. Okay. So then we proceeded to give notices to our landlords on the leases. We did staff notification as far as what notification on the loss of the contract, or the contract's being terminated. Then we had further notice to staff, and I met with all the different 5 Parent Link staffs a couple of weeks back to give notices. Many are notices for termination notice to the end of December, and some remaining were to the end of March. Okay. So then we started communication on the reduced services as far as putting that out. What does that look like to the centers? And yes, there's great concern from parents across the 5 Parent Link centers. But we've tried to ensure them that the centers will remain open, they just will be reduced, and we'll look forward to what that new family resource network, the new model, the framework for delivery of service, what that will look like. So something new is coming. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet. Other things that we'll be working on from now to completion, of course, all those HR responsibility assets at the centers. We talked about that very briefly. Our FCSS board, we will review all those things in January. I've asked staff to provide us with an inventory of the assets of all the centers, and we'll look forward to seeing what we can do and what's happening in communities. So will the programs continue in the 5 centers? How can we provide some of those resources to the various communities so that they can carry on? We'll be doing final reporting, and we'll also be doing an audit, which we will be we can share with you folks as well at the end. So shutting down the 5 parent link centers as opposed to many other regions in the province who just operate one center has a greater impact. It's been a very difficult time. I won't say it's been easy. We have an amazing parent link team across the network who've given years of service, developed many family and community relations, and community partnerships. We will continue with reduced operations in the new year until the end of March and support our staff and families as we wind down the centers. At this same time, we are also engaged in the new Alberta Children's Family Resource Network Expression of Interest. The Alberta Children's Services Family and Resort Community Resiliency Division has established a province-wide family resource network for delivering services for children 0 to 18 under the Wellbeing and Resiliency Model, a framework for supporting safe and healthy children and families. And so we've been invited to be part of this new service by submitting a response to the expression of interest, and that has to be submitted by January the 20th. Of course, over the past few weeks, many of our community agencies throughout the region have been gathering to chat about the expression of interest and how can we work together and collaborate to move forward into the future. And of course, Blackfalds FCSS has been a big part of that. Sue Bourne hosted a meeting last week, and then we hosted one in Macomb. We had a very good response today. So I think now we'll start really getting down to determine who's going to be doing what. And of course, it's important for all of us to collaborate when we start developing who might be the hub for this new family resource center and who will be the scope and provide the services. The successful proponents of the expression of interest will be awarded by mid-March, and we anticipate working with our partners in the delivery of this new family resource network. Again, Macomb District FCSS, we'd like to express a tremendous amount of gratitude to all our parent staff, our healthy family staff, our playground leaders, our playgroup leaders, and community partners for their years of service in all our communities. Together, we've certainly made a difference, and we look forward to working with you to continue to support our Central Alberta children and families. Once again, thank you for your support and your understanding and your cooperation as we move forward through this transition period.
Thank you.
Questions?
Councilors, are there any questions? Councilor Taylor?
Well, first of all, I want to say I appreciate how difficult this is. Without really much warning, the government decided to create a great shortfall. That deficit falls right onto the kids, and that's really unfortunate. And I don't know how much will be picked up in the slack of the new program, but the way the ball dropped, it's pretty scary the way it came. And I appreciate the hardship of what that is. I'm just wondering about how you decided, like how the funding worked out. You're funded per children, or how that works, and how you decided to disperse that funding once it kind of all played out from the province.
So we, as far as the province, Macomb District FCSS, we received one big grant to provide operations to all 5 networks. So we plan a budget accordingly, and we plan staffing accordingly, and so on and so forth. So when it came to this, we just looked at our total expenses across the whole network. It wasn't narrowed down, and when we determined, as far as staffing, we had to look at years of service and notice and those kinds of things. So it was kind of determined, so many people had to be reduced staffing services by the end of December, and left with just a core of folks. So.
Yeah, subsequent. Just to that, and I realize this is sensitive, but I know Blackfalds, we have 250 babies a year. So we have a high population of youth. And I don't know if you're funded per child or just by town or how that area is. And I do understand the HR agreement that, you have senior people who have proportionately. But for me to make feedback to the province is disproportionately if our community was hit worse, because we do have more children. And if we're losing more staff, and the proportional ratio, we could be hit worse than other communities because of seniority.
I guess we didn't look at it in that way, we just look at it as far as the whole network, and we're provided funding, initially going back, Lacombe, the initial network was Lacombe and, Rimbey and Panoka. And then we were asked by the province to consider taking on Wetaskiwin into the parent link, and then over the years, then Blackfalds came into the fold. So it added more communities into our grant, but it's never been population based on population or anything like that. It's just based on, on community, and I think, young families being in communities, and of course, Blackfalds being one of the fastest growing one with young families. So it's never really been proportioned as far as per capita or population.
Before you do that, does anybody else have any questions? Okay.
Well, I guess it's
No.
Just one quick comment.
Okay.
And one more thing, when we come to the new expression of interest in the Family Resource Center, so what they did is across the province, I think there's 50 to 60 some $1 million, and they divided the province up. And so our area network is Lacombe, Blackfalds, and Lacombe County. And we're considered a small network, so they go small, medium, large, and the funding will be distributed accordingly. So we're small, so we can apply across the network for all the different services, $350,000 to $500,000. So we have to do, if we're thinking about early years, if we're thinking about healthy families, if we're talking about school wellness workers had contracts into these, all those different services. It was probably at one point worth $1.5 million services. So, we've got to do a lot more with a lot less, or just as much with a lot less. But I'm encouraged. We had a really good community meeting today and just kind of did some asset mapping of what services are available in our communities. And it's amazing, outside of government contracts and supports, there's many, many different supports and services that are available. And we will continue to work with those partnerships.
Just to one point, I think before we were getting Parent Link out of Red Deer, and I think in discussions, because we weren't feeling the equity of being a part of Red Deer, because everything was Red Deer focused and everybody would have to go to Red Deer, and we weren't getting the benefit. So when we lobbied to move that out with you, we definitely did have an increase in service. So that was definitely, which we felt we should have been getting along before that. We've had to fight a lot of good battles in the past, and looks like we're fighting another one together now. So I'm just cognizant of, we've been in Parent Link a long time. It's just that we've switched from this side to that side. So, we kind of get squished in that. So when I speak to a minister, I want to make sure that they realize, not everybody was affected equally in this. There was some real, hardships that came out of this on top of the hardships.
And they really, unfortunately, they didn't give us enough time. We always felt that if Parent Link was going to come to an end, they would at least give us a year. And now it would give us a lot more time to prepare and go through this process. So if they would have said March 2021, I think, we would have been better prepared.
Councillor Pell?
Thank you. So you mentioned how other centers only have one Parent Link center for the amount of grant that we get, whereas the Lacombe District SCSS have 5. So would that not mean that we have a larger grant then to fund those 5? Okay. So, and then the other comment, just to, I wrote this down before, but I just want to reiterate. So what was decided then upon which centers ended as of December and which ones went on to March were based on staffing and seniorities?
They will all go on until the end of March. It's just staffing will be reduced. Initially, our plan to say before Blackfalds was going to provide bridge funding, we'd have core staff left over, and they would rotate around to the different 5 centers so that we could be operating at least 1 or 2 days a week in each center. All 5 centers, all 5 leases will continue until the end of March. It's just reduced, but your community, with wanting to make sure that families are able to access resources and take part in programs and service, you made that decision, which is a very wise decision to continue to support your Parent Link Center and to have, your funding at a fuller capacity than we're able to do across the region.
Any other councillors? Couple of questions that I'd like to put forward. First of all, I heard you say that our facility will be, our lease will be continued till the end of March. So that lease amount will be put into it. So that's one of the expenses that we're not going to have to cover with our funding.
That's right.
And we appreciate that part of it. I think there was a little bit of confusion from our part whether or not that would continue. The second one is a little bit more specific, and is there going to be any money available to offset some of our 21,000 that we are bridge funding that would have come to our community anyway? So, yeah, you're saying that other staff would have moved around. Is it only staffing that would have changed? So
Well,
it's not actual funding into the program?
as far as funding into Blackfalds program, the other programs, when we look at what we're gonna be operating, so will be limited resources and services, so we won't be able to be as robust a program. So for example, if we had facilitators, contract facilitators coming in and do special programs and so on and so forth, we won't see a lot of that happening across the region. Now, Blackfalds every year has contributed additional dollars to enhance their program, and so I believe this year, that was a contribution of $5,000, and from your Parent Link manager, I believe there's still about $1,700 sitting in that pool of funds, so that will certainly be available to you folks, to Blackfalds, as for program resources until the end of March. And things like, the programs will still be coming, they always serve snacks and things like that, so there'll be resources available to cover those costs. Any of your other things, like your telephone, your cell phones, all those things will still be in place and covered through Parent Link contract.
Okay. So, Councilor Hoover.
You did mention something earlier about your inventorying your assets. Do you think that there'll be liquidation of any assets, and if so, what will be happening with those funds?
That'll go to our home SCSS board in January. So as I mentioned, we'll have staff do an inventory. And if we may talk to all the different communities and the communities, I'm assuming Blackfalds is going to stay as is. So, I'm assuming all those resources will remain in the community, whether there might be, if we have to charge a small fee to recover some of our losses, we may look at doing that, but we haven't made any decisions on those. And what we like to do is keep the centers open as long as possible, so as these expressions of interest come forward, we don't know what's gonna happen in those other communities. We know Blackfalds will be, they wanna operate, whether it's called Parent Link Center or something in the future. In Lacombe, we would certainly like to continue our operations. They probably won't be as robust. In the other three communities, I'm still not sure. They are trying to put some expressions of interest together. So whether they will actually be able to hang on to their facilities, that's unknown at this point. But hopefully, there will be some community interest in all 5 communities to facilitate and make that happen. But it's still TBA. But I know Blackfalds has certainly expressed strong interest that they want to keep their center and keep everything that's in it. So we are well aware of that.
Any other questions? We understand it is a very difficult time for the entire region, and we appreciate the struggle that you're going through. And we do understand all the questions. We have to also, and you know this very well, we have to also ask the questions as to how we can protect our community and the funding that we're going forward. And I think that from my perspective, you provided a really good explanation about the different funding models. And with Manager Bourne, I hope you keep in communication with her. And if there's anything that our council can do, because as Councillor Taylor mentioned, we are in contact with ministers, with MLAs, with different officials all the time, and we're perfectly willing to provide a consistent message, and would like to help you out as much as our town, because we're all in the region together. So any messages that you feel would be beneficial, please send them along through our administration, and we'd be happy to help out in whatever way we can. Administration, do you have any questions that haven't been actually answered?
I think we've covered it all, Your Worship. I would want to thank as well. We've had some good conversations the last few weeks, and we're very pleased with the process as going forward.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming and talking to us. Again, I know it's a difficult time.
Well, thank you again for your support. You're an amazing community to work with. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Our next delegation is Stantec, or pardon me, CSD.
No, I'm for Stantec.
We don't pay you that well.
Get some new clothes.
No, seriously, thank you very much. And I know we have our Brad, and we have our Stantec staff.
Yeah, I'm just gonna introduce some of our Stantec's been working hard this parking lot, your worship of council, so we're just gonna go over the plaza design and the parking lot and also start management, so welcome Brad and Gordon.
Yes, thank you for having us here, your worship and council. Just to introduce Gord, I'm not sure if everybody here knows him or not, but he's our senior lead for planning and landscape architecture. He's done quite a bit of work in Blackfalds. Probably most notably is the downtown revitalization plan, which in a lot of ways actually feeds into this project.
And a couple thousand lots.
Yeah, plenty for sure. So, yeah. So this is just kind of a basic 3D rendering sketch of what the vision is going to look like there, just in terms of the stairs and the benching and seating and the walkways and ramps and stuff there. So getting into let's see the quick control here. Let's see. Okay, I think we got it here. So yeah, we'll do a quick overview on the general site and the parking there, and then we'll get deep into the concept of the plaza there, and then we'll just give an overview on the stormwater management here. So I think most of everybody here is familiar with the general layout, and we had the open house that we participated in just along with DCI there when they presented everything to the public there. And one of the main takeaways, of course, was like this, the concern about vehicles being able to drive through the parking lot. And so what we've done here is like there's a designated walkway, and it's kind of that'll function as a barrier, but it'll also have a sidewalk on it to help basically protect people that would be parking in that northeast area, to get them to the main doors without having a conflict with a lot of the main through traffic there. And then, of course, most notably at the bottom there is the plaza area, and we'll look at that a little bit closer again. But between the plaza and the door there, you can see on the main road there by the current police parking stalls there, that there's going to be a raised crosswalk. So it's proposed to be a nice homogeneous finish across the entire thing, so that it doesn't feel like there's a split between the plaza as well as all the concrete and the features that are going to happen in front of the building there that DCI is looking after. And the landscape architects are working really closely together to make sure that all of the specs and the design features will be coherent across there. So, and then we've also included here a bit of at least some space for a vital retention area. That's just they can be kind of nice features as a green space and kind of help to create a little bit of stormwater there too. So.
I think, Brad, just to add on to one of the messaging here is that as we designed this parking lot, we really recognized that there was a shortage of parking, and we worked hard to preserve everything that we can in terms of utilizing that space efficiently. Ultimately, we did also recognize within the district should the importance of having some of that green space, having some of those safety barriers, and having some of these with sidewalks and enforcing some pedestrian moving around it. So what we sacrificed a little bit in terms of parking spot, hopefully we've made up on the second slide here. But at the end of the day, it is also to have this space, this parking area function well, look well, as well as obviously being able to park the necessary vehicles.
Yeah, and then I guess just in the number of stalls there. So the main parking area here would have about 268 stalls. And then like during major events, if the town needed, and that's quite a bit already here. But if the town did need more, there is potential to have, like to use the parking, the existing parking around this building, and even if some of the other buildings were to eventually be redeveloped, like that could be a suitable parking space. So that's only conceptual at this point here, but it is a nice short walk to the doors there across the railway tracks, where of course is going to be that pedestrian crossing there. So.
Yeah. So getting into the plaza concept over the last few months as we work through the design with administration, it's really the sense of identifying what this space is, both aesthetically and functionally. At the end of the day, we wanted to design a space that wasn't recognized as just that park in front of the arena or just that green space as part of that parking lot. I've been fortunate enough to work in the community for a long time now, and like Brad mentioned with the downtown revitalization project, there was a focus on creating community space, community amenities that have a strong sense of place themselves. This is one of those spaces. The messaging from administration was really about creating a space that has a lot of multifunction use to it, a lot of seasonal use. So whether it's a farmer's market, whether it's summer fairs, whether it's community announcement, this space allows for that while taking the benefits of the arena, whether it's shared bathrooms or some of the shared space. And then as Brad has mentioned, where we've done that crosswalk, so rather than just doing a small bump out between the entrance, I guess, and the plaza there, rather than just doing a small bump in the roadway, what we ended up doing was really expanding that surface. So the ACI, or what I'll call the arena foyer, the entrance area, this roadway and this plaza really will start to function as one space when required, when you have bigger spaces, when you need that interaction between two. Other than that, the space itself, along with the unique characteristics of the site itself, there is quite a bit of grading here, especially when the roadway diverts into that new alignment. So having to work through that, working some of the accessibility, the track crossings and stuff. At the end of the day, I think we have succeeded at, and maybe one of the things that even this picture doesn't show is even how we are able to now integrate the parking lot into some of these activities. We're able to close off the parking areas with a simple barricade. And when the events get a little bit bigger, to create a larger plaza, a more connected area rather than kind of using bits and parts of the foyer and parts of the parking lot in the plaza. So it is a very well connected space. One of the things we've really been trying to message with administration is just the sheer size of this thing. This will be able to hold a community event of a couple hundred people at any given time. When you start to add the parking area, when you start to add the entrance area of the arena itself, then it really starts to be a community gathering space. This is where you can make your big announcements. This is where a couple hundred, 500-600 people can gather at any given time, whether it's a special event or a planned activity. So as we work through it and as we get through the next stages, obviously it's to continue detailed designing this, really working with the arena again, having some of that common space in terms of materials, vegetation, but at the same time constantly focusing as how does this space become a strong standalone presence.
Yeah, it's just the kind of high level thing that's kind of important, I guess, to talk to council about is one of the biggest engineering challenges on the project is stormwater management, and in a nutshell, this development is basically going to be taking away a lot of green space where stormwater would naturally infiltrate into the ground and soak in. We're replacing that with buildings and asphalt and concrete. So the danger with that is if you don't plan and design for it, you could risk flooding downhill and overwhelming infrastructure downstream and away from the multiplex here. And in this case, the particular area that would be at most at risk is the area to the south. So what's being proposed is utilizing the green space on the left side of this figure. There's a community garden there, and turning it into a dry pond. And in some ways, I don't really like calling it a pond because it's going to be dry almost all the time. And they're common facilities that even like Blackfalds is used most recently at All-Star Park, like there's going to be the soccer field in the bottom of the dry pond there. And and then it's sized to take up a good chunk of that space and would require, like there's the existing community garden in there. The plots would have, like they could stay on site, they would have to be relocated likely closer to the trail to the west there. And yeah, like the pond would be dry basically all the time except for during major storm events. When there's like it'll be a combination of overland drainage that would carry it, but mostly there would be a storm truck there that takes it from the central part of the parking lot, they call it the drainage of the parking lot, and the plaza and the building. And that's going to collect mostly in the pipe and go into the pond where it's detained for at most a day, and then it gets slowly released into existing infrastructure. So that's the end of what we got here. So we're happy to do our best answering any questions.
Councilor Taylor.
Could you go to your previous slide?
Absolutely, yeah.
The only one thing that I noticed is that we blocked in the lane. So if you were, for all the townhouses, you would have to come in from the west and go all the way down going east. And I was just wondering.
You're talking about Lauren Avenue?
No, I'm talking about right out the Womax, those, yeah. Right there when you come in, because you have the one access coming in, right? Right there. And then where the lane is,
Yes.
they would have to come down all that way. I'm just wondering if there was, I guess they'd still have to come in and around, so it really wouldn't make any difference. I was thinking in my mind, if we blocked halfway one way, but you're beat, so. I was just thinking about that. I could just see that probably somebody might be a little ticked that they have to drive all that way down, but it's not that big of a deal. So.
Well, this entrance will still stay open here.
Oh, we'll stay
That's
open?
the intent, yeah.
Oh, okay, because I thought I saw with that barrier, it looked like it was blocked.
Oh, yeah, sorry, at this scale, it's kind of
Okay.
tough to capture, but that would just be like a typical main apron.
Okay,
Yeah, sorry, it came across as a block there, but that's just.
no, all good, thanks. No, that's good.
Well, and that's one of those exact discussions when we design the parking lot, really recognizing what is the existing infrastructure, how do people currently use it, and how to minimize that impact. So that was one of those areas that we decided was important to keep that lane open and not necessarily reroute them in and again, just point to that little green space. And that's why we actually don't have an access necessarily right there on where that green space is into those parking. So again, we sacrificed a couple of parking spots in order to keep that lane open.
Deputy Mayor Holford.
So I see there's shrubbery and whatnot in the parking lot and creating a walkway. Now, how is a bus that's gonna be dropping off players gonna get to the side door?
The intent is for, like, the buses will park here, so they would have to come around here, and actually, that's a great question, this plan doesn't really illustrate it. But we're proposing to reopen that connection primarily for the buses to come around there. So they would have to, come around that way. The parking lot, I guess theoretically you could design it for buses to be able to go through, but you would sacrifice quite a few stalls and really open things up there.
Continue. Secondly, with that, on a parking note, could not the plaza be pushed further south into that further green space, and then that would create some more parking?
Yeah, we looked at this option on various manners. It goes to, I think the ultimate messaging that this is a tough site. It's got a lot of constraints. It's not a square. It's got a lot of triangles. And even though on paper it may look like there's a lot of more space, but when you actually go and define a parking space based on the width of and depth of the spots, the area needed for the two-lane drive aisle, you really start to not gain very much out of it. We looked at those options, and this is probably the 7th, 8th version of looking at it and how it functions. There were pro and cons to each version of that.
Yeah, and one of the things here too is there's the existing lift station building and the generator building there that we have to design around. So the way this is kind of being designed right now, it's more so beside those facilities, whereas if you were to push that stuff to the south, if you're looking at it from the building, the plaza would kind of be behind those buildings. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but we just kind of kept everything closer together that way.
Well, and then also that was the trade-off too. We would love to have gotten more parking spots, but at what sacrifice? At what point does that plaza become maybe too small, or maybe doesn't have the flexibility to host various events? And so again, that was some of those trade-offs and discussions. And through administration, if we need to answer that as to what that area looks like, how many spots could it gain, what's the sacrifice? That's definitely something we can answer.
Councillor Pell?
So the raised walkway then between the plaza and the new multiplex, is that still drivable by vehicles, or is it gonna be completely blocked off?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's just not big enough for buses.
It will absolutely be drivable. Yeah, it'll be designed with ramps that they're significant like a speed bump. They will slow people down, but yeah, you'll be able to drive over it, yeah.
But they're just not appropriate for the buses to come in that way and go around the building, or?
Those physically would not stop a bus there. I think the constraints on the bus through the parking lot are more about the horizontal geometrics and.
Like the turning movements of the bus and the space needed.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
And Brad, I think another comment to that too, part of this design was also to potentially limit some of the traffic going through the south side, obviously with the south having the established community there. How do we try to force people to prevent shortcutting and use the north axis a little bit more? So this curve again is drivable for in terms of standards, but again, enough that not the most comfortable thing to drive.
Councillor Hoover?
I'm just looking specifically at the stormwater management. Currently, there's no below ground drainage in this area. This is all natural drainage that this would replace.
There's a little bit of pipe in all directions, and but it's not sized for the kind of flows that are going to come away from the site here. The north part of the parking lot here is able to be accommodated by some of the stormwater management here, but it's mostly the area to the south. Like really, the overland drainage here, the site generally drains from north to south and from east to west, like to this area kind of thing. So in a nutshell, it's the infrastructure downstream to the south and to the west that is extremely limited right now.
So, knowing that we have fairly significant stormwater projects that are planned, I think the North Storm, would this have any impact on this? Would this play a role in that future expansion, or could it mitigate some of the costs in the future expansion of stormwater management?
Actually, this is kind of right on the cusp where it doesn't fall within either the east or the northwest storm projects. It's more kind of on the south part of town here, like around the Tuddy area kind of thing. So yeah, unfortunately, this does not really fall within those basins here.
Okay. So on the flip side, though, does this require an environmental approval from the province or any significant process?
No, we would just register the pond. It would be a new pond, but it's just a routine registration for the system.
Okay, thank you.
So.
Any other questions from council? So my question is both to yourselves and administration. There's going to be considerable impact on community of Stanley and Lorne. So first of all, show me how Lorne Street will be accessed from now on. Will they have to go all the way up to Lansdowne Avenue, drive down and drive left onto Stanley, or continue all the way south for the southern entrance?
So I'm not sure, Colin, do you mean this?
Lawrence Street. I'm just trying to look at the dynamics of how, right now, people just turn left and they drive down the street and they enter the district.
So your worship, the Lansdowne Avenue Road will still come down from Rolling Hills Park
Right?
and go straight through here. The only change is we're potentially going to be opening the Westwood Drive cul-de-sac that we closed a number of years ago. We will either open it fully to traffic to be able to access this bus turnaround, or we would simply only allow bus traffic, local traffic only. That would allow us to do this movement here for the buses. And then you had another question around?
Lawrence Street, it will not be able to be extended anymore. The people will not be able to drive up to Womax Avenue on Lawrence Street. Right now they drive up to Broadway, turn
Oh,
left.
right here, your worship.
Yes. So that's
Yes.
gonna be blocked off completely?
No, so you can still, so if you were trying to access the collector roadway, and you lived over on Westwood, more than likely, we'd want the traffic movement to come out onto Lansdowne Avenue, north onto Womax, and then over to the east side. But if you were wanting to go through the parking lot, you can still go up the ramp. It's still two-way traffic there. Drive through here, stop and pick up your kid, and then keep going further northeast. You can still do that movement. We're just discouraging people accelerating beyond the parking lot speed across this area. It's not that big of a concern, but we wanted to kind of isolate it, as well as the ability to utilize the facilities facade and the courthouse directly adjacent to or the court area directly adjacent to the access doors for the new facility, and being able to utilize the parking lot in its entirety is kind of why we went with that at-grade crossing. So it will be, drivers that are coming up to there will know they're going onto a pedestrian-only area, or cautiously area, and they'll be able to make that turn.
So my question to administration CEO Thompson is that this is going to cause considerable change in the behavior pattern of the folks that are in that district. And I'm wondering what type of communication, what type of rollout are we going to make specifically directed at the folks in that area to explain and get our feedback from them about how things are being played out? Because right now, they've seen some overreaching type of plans at our last open house, but this is a more specific plaza concept that I'm not sure the folks in that neighborhood have really understand what's going to happen.
Right, Your Worship, here's the number of steps that are taking place. I mean, tonight, the purpose was to provide council the concept renderings where we are right now. We will develop a public consultation plan as we go forward, and so as this plan develops and council approve that overall design, then we will develop timelines and schedules to meet with the folks and provide that information and ensure that that everybody that has an opportunity to be aware of the project as it goes forward.
So what is a broad timeline for moving the project ahead? Or have you managed to get to that stage?
We don't have that right now.
Okay, then. Are there any other questions from council? So what is the final number of parking stalls that will be maximum and, okay, normal, and then you said that they could maximize?
The way it's drawn right now, there's 268 stalls on the west side of the tracks.
Great.
Plus, depending on if the area to the east were to be redeveloped, I think the number was an additional 139, getting it to 407. As a high-level comparison, we also like this compared it to the city of Lacombe. Their multiplex, which also has 2 arenas as well as a curling rink and a swimming center, it has about 300 stalls. So this is in the order of what's being used in other areas here.
Manager Toplinsky, I think you're going to add something.
Yes. With respect to what has been proposed so far, the requirement through the land use bylaw is a 440 stalls. With what is being proposed on site and adjacent to the property across in this area right here, using the town area and the CSD lot, which the building will be going down and we will be using that as a parking lot. We're potentially utilizing then 407 stalls. So with that and our relaxation through the development officer's authority under the land use bylaw, this would comply with that. If we decide that we want to send it to the municipal planning commission, that is something that we could utilize too. Once we have the exact numbers, once we know exactly what we're dealing with, that's where we're going to be at. But when you have both of them going in both areas going, and there is going to be, yes, there will be off-street parking along, Westwood. People are going to park and walk along Westwood. And in the future, we can also look at that property that we have purchased along Westwood to develop more parking stalls that are closer as we require them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Hoover.
So just to make sure I heard this right, because it sounded like you're suggesting this if we develop this east parking lot, but based on what you're saying, in order to meet even a relaxation of the land use bylaw, we would have to develop this area. Correct?
Yes, it's just how we are looking at, we're redoing the land use bylaw right now, and we're looking at the parking and what the requirements are with respect to each of the areas, each of the divisions, what the land uses are and everything else. So there may be some minor adjustments, and the parking that we have been looking at for major facilities like this is actually, we're at a very high parking ratio right now versus some other municipalities which are actually using a little less of a parking ratio. So instead of 1 per 4 stalls, 1 per 6 seats, one versus 1 per 4 seats, those kind of things. So this is based on 1 per 4 seats.
So just so I'm clear, that if we should we not move forward with this east parking lot immediately, the bylaw will meet
Yes.
this development.
Yeah, and with that, with respect to that, if it's going to take an extra year, then we can go to municipal planning commission and ask for a relaxation based on the development at future phases.
Okay.
Okay, is this in regards to,
Yes, the subsequent.
go ahead, please.
So, Councillor Hoover, just so you understand, the east parking lot area, the eastern portion of that figure is actually our existing parking lot minus the FCSS building. So this area is where the FCSS building is right now, and then this area is where the CS.
Yeah.
So this area is already built. It would only be the area under the FCSS existing building would have to be built to get to some of that.
But that's currently, without changing those structures, it's probably about a third of what's proposed.
I'd say about 30.
Deputy Mayor Wolford?
So still on that east parking lot, is there going to be a discussion coming forward, council, about those two buildings? Because, to just arbitrarily.
Back to CEO Thompson.
Yes, your worship, through Councilor Olford, we will be bringing forward a process for those buildings in the future.
Councillor Cal?
Thank you. My question was just in regards to parking. Is there a distance specified in the bylaw for how far that parking needs to be? Because we do have the community hall that's 2 blocks away.
No, we don't have a distance, and this is actually closer than what the community hall is. And so for future development of what we're looking at with respect to the library going over and us getting some extra space in here and our new operations facility and stuff like that. So this is why we're using that east parking lot area. We haven't counted it as being in the downtown area with the potential of using on-street parking also, which is something that we have to look at as to how that would affect not only this, but the residents in the area too.
Any other questions? Senator Thompson.
Your worship and council, we also have the parking lot to the south across from Pickles, the common parking lot that's in close walking distance as well.
Not seeing anything more. Exciting concept moving forward. I think we're really, I said excited once. We're very eager to move forward on this and looking for all the changes that is going to bring that whole area. Moving from just a parking lot into a plaza, I think is a really positive move. Is it possible for these this PowerPoint presentation to be made available to council just so that they have it in their back pocket? I think we'd appreciate that. Thank you very much, folks, for coming forward and presenting this. And I don't see any more questions, so we'll look forward to our next presentation with a more finished design somewhere in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving forward to business arising, we have our 5.1, the IDP.
Thank you, Your Worship. Following the public hearing and that, this background and discussion has been basically stated. What will happen and what we're requesting tonight is the administration is requesting second reading tonight of the IDP. Third reading will be brought back in January after Lacombe County has a chance to have their public hearing, and they will then look at second reading and potentially third reading on Thursday, or they may hold off their third reading until January also, depending on what happens at their public hearing. Just requesting that council pass second reading, and we will be bringing it back for third reading in January.
Council, do you have any questions? Councilor Taylor.
Not so much a question, just a comment. Just regards to the comments that were made earlier about the opposition. When we look at this boundary, we're looking to the future of our municipality. I attended a men's breakfast in Calgary. The person putting it on worked for the provincial government for 35 years, and he dealt with the reclaiming of historical buildings. They talked about the Soundstone district in Calgary, and interesting part of history, when they built that area, that's the Hyatt area and all that downtown, that area was built in the suburbs, and everybody was saying, why are you building it way out there? Shortly after that, like the growth of the city was 197% in 5 years, and then it was 265%. And the population projections, it just, pretty soon that was no longer part of the suburbs. And of course, history has played itself out, and it's gone through high growth and low growth, so as low as 0.3%. When we looked at this, we also looked at the population projections for Blackfalds. And this, to not have a good plan that encompasses, I know, the short vision of doing the acreages that were brought forward, this is broad and perhaps maybe not broad enough, but it gets us into a reasonable area that's consistent with what the Alberta government does in planning. And I think that's important. When we looked at that, this was developed looking into the future and realizing this is what we're going to need for the future. This is it. So.
Thank you. So I think it's safe to say that by moving this forward on second reading, we are indicating that council is going to be in favor of this design. And when third reading comes through, we're trying to juggle it with our county partners. And this is basically our indication that we are in favor of it and we will be moving to third reading.
Yes.
Is there someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Stinde, I saw her hand up first.
So I will move that council give second reading to bylaw 1239.19, being the Blackfalds, Lacombe County intermunicipal development plan.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And thank you, administration. It's been a process moving forward, and I think you folks have done a wonderful job helping us through the steps. CEO Thompson. Farm safety verbal.
Thank you, Worship. This item was before council, at the previous council meeting, and also previous standing committee council meeting as well. I did have follow up with the county manager on the farm safety center. As council will recall, we had an invitation to participate in that and provide funding to that, and the direction of council at that time was to find out what the county was doing. They have their own farm safety program that targets the youth, and it consists of a one-day tour for a number of school groups coming through. And I think it's morning and afternoon, and they take the kids through various farming scenarios and teach them farming safety and provide a lunch. In my communication with the county manager, I inquired whether there was opportunity for the town to collaborate on such an initiative, and he really felt that there wasn't. And so I'm just bringing forward this information to count, although he did thank me for the offer. But I'm just bringing this forward to close out this item.
Thank you. So I think a motion to accept, first of all, any discussion on that? A motion to accept this for information? Councillor Powell?
I move to accept the information about the farm safety center as information. Thank you.
Discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Moving on to business, 6.1. And we have our 2020 operational budget moving forward. Director Grassett.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Before you, you have the 2020 operating budget for approval this evening. The 2020 operating budget has been prepared for and reviewed through the collaborative process. I would pass through once administration and council have various discussions, presentations, and budget retreats on the 2020 operating budget. At the November 26th meeting, regular council meeting, we had additional discussions there. The outcome of that is in Appendix A, Appendix 1. And some of those decisions were, as you heard earlier tonight, was to include some bridge funding for the parent link salaries to March next year. Also, we just had confirmation that the first quarter rent is going to be paid, and that's included in our assumptions for next year. Although the remainder of the year has been taken out for the rental income, about $30,000. As you know, the application for forthcoming for the new parent link or the family resource network will be sent in, and we'll adjust the budget accordingly based on those applications. Section 242 of the MGA requires the municipality to adopt an annual operating budget each calendar year, and it's administration's recommendation that you approve the budget as presented tonight. Once again, I'll just remind that any adjustments will be brought back prior to the property tax rate bylaw. That includes the Alberta School Foundation Fund requisition and any major revenue and expenditure changes that we have noted. Appendix 1 is the history of the discussions through this budget process, dating back to the budget workshops and the additional council meetings that we've had discussion on this. Appendix 2 and 3 show the consolidated revenues and expenditures, one by GL category and the other by division. Both of these reports are enable the reader to see the year-over-year changes. The 3-year operating budget is also presented this evening. That's in Appendix 4. Just wanted to note that the MGA does not require individual approvals in the next 2 years. It's just a planning document that we're looking at that two years out from the current budget year. So once again, throughout the year, budget is always on our priorities, looking at those changes, and we will monitor the next couple of years coming up as well. Utility rates have been included in this memo as presented in your budget binders. Once again, just want to remind the utility departments that water, wastewater, and solid rates are self-supported, meaning that total expenses will be recouped by user fees. I won't read the rates there, but they are there for your perusal. The direction of this budget was set in the pre-budget workshops, and when council provided senior administration direction on the range of issues and acceptable tax rate increases, staffing considerations, franchise fees, and council remuneration. Administration has prepared the budget accordingly, and as a result, the budget has been prepared with a 1% tax increase. Hiring valued at $286,000, a 1% increase represents $23 a year or $1.94 per month. This estimate here, it does exclude the provincial portion of property taxes. So administration's recommendation this evening is that council move to accept the recommendation of administration to approve the 2020 Town of Blackfalds operating budget of $28,900,649. Once this budget has been passed, we will update the binders, we'll update the information on the website as well, and we will provide you with a new printed copy of the budget. So in saying that, I will open it up for any questions.
Thank you. Council, are there any comments or questions? Not seeing any. I do have a little bit to say. I will be voting in favor of this budget. Council has provided direction early on, and administration has followed the request of the majority of council throughout the entire budget process. Council has had the opportunity to review the proposed budget, and through our discussions, we were able to direct administration to make adjustments to the proposed budget in areas council felt this should be done. In this budget, council has directed a 1% increase in taxes. This is below CPI and reflects a considered and responsible amount, averaging 1.94 per month to the households. In addition, administration worked hard to find other efficiencies that will be enacted throughout the upcoming year. Our budget continues to reflect that the town needs to have the ability to fund tangible asset depreciation, and we're moving responsibly on this item by authorizing administration to undertake asset management planning in the upcoming year. We continue to have a responsible ratio of staff to citizens, as well as an excellent ratio of management staff to frontline staff. Our upcoming year is an exciting one that will see the commencement of 4 major projects, and the financing for these projects has been well developed to minimize direct taxation results. By building now, we are very hopeful outstanding building economy will be realized. Finally, I'm excited about the purchase of the operations center and look forward to an increased operational efficiency, staff safety, and equipment preservation that will occur. Does council want to add any other comments at this point? Does anyone on council wish to make a motion? Councillor Taylor.
I move that council accept the recommendation of administration to approve the 2020 Town of Blackfalds operating budget of $28,900,649.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much for your hard work on this administration. Moving along, we have the FCSS grant funding allocation. Manager Barnes, or Director Barnes.
There's no worship of council. There's 2 grant funding applications in front of you. One was bought in November from Iron Ridge Elementary Campus, presented applications for FCSS grant funding to purchase wheat ink kits for a total of $3,500. And then the second one from St. Gregory the Great that was presented in December to help out for training for a Connect Parent Group facilitation of $703. So that's in front of you for approval.
Councilor, are there any questions regarding the request? Councilor Powell.
Not a question in regards to the requests specifically. My question is just in regards to the FCSS grant funding. This is not something we're able to use towards ParentLink and associated programs?
No,
No,
doesn't meet the original mandate.
that's what I thought, but I had to ask. Thank you.
Very good question. Any other questions or comments? Does anyone on council wish to make a motion? Councillor Hoover?
I will move the council move to accept the FCSS board recommendation to allocate FCSS grant funding to Iron Ridge Elementary Campus in the amount of $3,546.51 for We Thinkers.
Do we need two motions on this?
Yeah.
Debate on the motion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Is someone, and Councillor Stenby?
I'll move to accept the FCSS board recommendation to allocate FCSS grant funding to St. Gregory the Great School in the amount of $703.49 for Connect Parenting.
Thank you. Debate on the motion? All in favor? And that is also, oh, I'm sorry, I missed your, with your.
I was in favor.
That is carried unanimously. Moving forward, PCPS consulting request, and I believe we received email that was with an updated package. Okay, let me just go into that because I haven't managed to.
The updated email actually includes a recommendation. The first one did.
I knew there'd be one coming somewhere along the line. Great, okay. Does everybody have it in front of them? Thank you. Manager Topoliski.
Thank you, Your Worship. This memo has been prepared basically because the town received correspondence from Parkland Community Planning Services inviting the town to become a member of the planning service. And it was provided as an action correspondence item on November the 18th. And this is the answers to the questions with respect to what has happened with Parkland Community Plannings in the interim over the number of years that I've been here. Up until 2009, the PCPS completed the town's minor short-term planning and review of all major development and subdivision requests. It included a complete review, referrals, including provincial, county coordination, internal departments, review of ASPs. At this time, we were a relatively small town of approximately 3,500 people. Myself was the sole development officer at the time, and through the regional agreement with PCPS, the town would work through these development planning changes with them. They offered a service that was required at the time due to, of course, the limited personnel in the planning department. This continued until the department expanded and took on more daily duties. The town had also used PCPS as a consultant as part of our annexation proposals with Lacombe County, and since then has used a number of different consultants, Stantec, Williams Engineering, as required for major planning proposals within the town. In 2010, PCPS requested from the town a new agreement, and at that time it was determined through senior administration discussions that the town had been completing the majority of the subdivision development services internally, as our local experience and customer service expectations required more of a hands-on approach. It was apparent that due to the ever-increasing development and planning decisions and the fact that the planning department was required to coordinate with engineering and master planning of the town, that it was necessary for the town to become more independent and self-reliant. The town will continue to maintain direct control of major planning and align our department's ability to adjust the development requirements within the town as required to utilize external professional sources within the planning and statistical community through the use of specialized consultants. Is also recognized, and administration knows that the town will require consultants in the future, and that the services provided by the PCPS will be kept as one of the consulting groups that the town will consider when required. It's recognized that as our municipality continues to grow, it is also anticipated that our staffing levels will also expand with the addition of planning position and other support staff to meet the needs and complement the existing development team. Requesting that council accept the recommendation of administration in not accepting membership with the Parkland Community Plan Services at this time.
Thank you. Questions or discussion from the council? Not seeing any. Someone, if you Mayor, go for it.
I'll move that council accepts the recommendation of administration in not accepting membership with the Parkland Community Planning Services at this time.
Discussion, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving forward, public art installation. And CEO Thompson.
Thank you, Worship. So the Blackfalds Area Historical Society, Economic Development Tourism Committee in town have had a good working relationship over the last number of years and have participated together on a number of projects, including the historical sign in that project that was done in 2016, the Wadey Center itself in 2017, and the mural and plaque of the Stevenson livery at the Wadey Center that was put up as a mural. They're also planning on a new mural that's going to take place, and the graphics is attached to this document, and that's of the Oliver equipment sale that took place in downtown Blackfalds many years ago, and that will be going on the wall after the grind this coming summer. The Historical Society is providing some additional funding. These fundings are raised through their casino revenues and monies gifted from the Wadey family. And two of the projects that they're proposing includes a standing plaque explaining the significance of the Canada 150 community mosaic that was placed at the entrance to the Wadey Center. And the other is public art structure and paying homage to Mary Wadey. And so very conceptual graphic was provided to council to give an indication of what that would look like. That isn't the final concept, but provides an indication. It's made of aluminum glass, and the location is depicted within an area that's also provided in the graphic. And because it's on town-owned land, administration feels that the council needs to support the project and be familiar with that. There will be additional information that comes forward in the future with that final design, but at this time, we're just bringing forward to council for approval. I'll just scroll up the recommendation. The council approves installation of the public art features for the Wadey Center after the grind.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Councilor Sendek.
So I see here that it says that it will have minimal financial implications for the town. How minimal are we talking?
Looking after the line locates, so that's at no cost, and we would have to have electrical contractor just bring the power over to that site. We will have to light it, so that's a minimal cost. I don't know what that would be, Councilor Stanley, but we would be able to incorporate that into our operational budget equation.
Continue.
Further, if I may, it does say as well that council is being asked to provide their input for future public art installations. Is that through the Historical Society? They're asking us for recommendations?
Yeah, I think that would come at a later date, even through our municipal sustainability planning initiatives and touchstone on that process as we go forward, because that's quite a large initiative.
Yes,
so,
it is.
The Historical Society, with the revenues they generate and with those donations from the Wadey family, are concentrating some of those funds at the Wadey House, and I think these are very worthwhile projects. But that being said, we have to be observant that that art goes in there in proper locations, and that really adds to the overall features of that.
I do want to say, I think that I can probably speak for all of council when I say that we are all very grateful to the Historical Society for involving us in their decisions.
Mhm.
And for reaching out for additional input from council as well as to what they'd like to see. So if you could pass along our thanks to them, that would be great.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Councillor Pell?
Thank you. So my question about the plaque for the Canada 150 Mosaic mural, is that mural, when, in all the time it was discussed with council, was always to be moved into our next civic facility, which at this point seems to be it's going to be our arena. So my concern is, would we want them to create a plaque for it at this point, considering the mural, as far as I know, has not changed plans to not be moved indoors?
Oh, we'll have a discussion with them as to how that plaque will look. I would imagine it would be a bronze plaque attached to something. I would assume that plaque could be removed and mounted below that mosaic wherever it rests in the next location.
Okay, so yeah, that's really my only concern in regards to that. And I love the idea of the quote mosaic. I thought that was just genius, so I'm excited to see that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, these projects really do add a lot of character to a municipality. They have they're the cookies and milk, I mean, they're the things that make it home, right? So they are a good part of tourism and just the essence of community.
Any other comments? Thank you, Councillor Cindy, for those comments, and I agree. I think you were speaking on behalf of all the council. At this point, is someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Cindy?
So I will move to approve the installation of the proposed public art features at the Wavy Center and After the Grind in 2020.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. I think you're still up for the standing.
Oh. Okay. Just,
Go ahead.
Director Warren threw me off when he wanted to come up. Over the last 3 years, council has moved to council with its understanding committee of council. Couple reasons. One, minimal agenda items, and the other is to, as a Christmas gift to staff, give them a bit of a break. And so we're once again requesting that, your worship at council. Also, we had indicated a mini retreat prior to standing committee. We would ask that that be deferred until the January meeting as well. So that frees up the entire December 16th for us to wrap up a lot of our year-end projects and reporting. So.
Any comments or discussion on that? I'm sure Deputy Mayor Hofer will be heartbroken not to be able to chair a meeting.
That's terrible.
It's terrible. It's terrible. Councillor Hoover?
If there's no other comments, I'm prepared.
Go right ahead.
The council accept the recommendation of administration and council's standing committee of council meeting scheduled for December 16th, 2019.
Is there any discussion on that motion? Deputy Mayor Hofer?
The mini retreat, would you like that added in there or just, is it?
No, we'll just take it out of here.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
So moving on, we have the Alberta Municipal Affairs notice to mayors and reads. I asked that to be included. What it's looking at as you read through it is that they have introduced some changes to the ICFs and IDPs. They are not major changes, and suggestion right now and the feeling is that they are not going to make significant differences. I did have a discussion with our partner with law, and she agreed that the IDP was not affected in any way, shape, or form, and she was very comfortable to move forward with the second reading on both of our council's part. I think that one thing that needs to be understood is that this did come through with no consultation, again, with AMA or RMA. It was in the vision of their red tape, and they moved forward with it. I believe that councils, and I know that AMA and RMA are very aware of the situation, have to be very aware of insisting to our government that when they're making changes to our act, the Municipal Government Act, that consultation should be taking place. And I think we need to find ways to talk as a council among ourselves to see if we want to take action, and I'm not asking tonight to do that, if we want to take action or if we want to be more assertive. So maybe it's something we can think of next Monday instead of our standing committee meeting. Everybody sit down and think about ways that we can address the municipal government and their approaches. And all I'm looking for tonight is a motion to accept this for information, but I definitely would like to hear feedback from councillors on it. Councillor Singh.
Before we accept this for information, I have a couple of questions about it. I was hoping that maybe through the chair to CO Thompson, you might be able to provide me some answers. Under ICFs, number 2, it says ICFs are about cost sharing of services that benefit residents in more than one municipality. They are not about revenue sharing, and I do not support any attempt to leverage ICF negotiations in an effort to extract revenue sharing agreements. Would this in any way affect, say, attempts to bring a joint economic agreement into an ICF?
Your worship, through you, Councillor Sin, the administration believes that would definitely have an impact on that suggestion by the county.
Okay, and then also further, if I may as well, under contents of an ICF, it describes a little bit further about which services are to be delivered and funded and how. And it leads one to believe that parks and trails would be a benefiting service to a municipality that perhaps maybe doesn't have their own or their own playgrounds. Is that how you would read that as well?
Definitely, administration is in agreement on that, and further that the services provided by the county under their draft agreement indicates those services as well. So that will be part of our discussions.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarification.
One further aspect from this decision that hasn't really been explained clearly is one of their key wording in the new direction is that they move from shall to may. So everything may be instead of shall be. So that allows a level of uncertainty as to what it has to be negotiated in a lot more detail, and what they can and cannot put in is open for debate now because it's may instead of a shall. Councilor Taylor?
I don't like any of the changes that they proposed, primarily because it took years of lobbying for municipalities to get to a point of negotiating and working through much consultation, so much process to get to the changes needed in the MGA Act in one sweeping movement. And that's what we dealt with from when Klein was in, is he created so much disparity amongst municipalities. We've had nothing but disputes. The funding and everything that goes with the accountability that's laid upon municipalities and cities, and in this one movement, in their superior wisdom, will again put us back into what we tried to get our way out of. So in my thinking, in no way should we even accept this as friendly. This is something that was done after much debate, much conflict. I mean, We went through 8 years through AUMA to get to the point, to get the MGA Act, so we could get to where we are. And then all of a sudden, oh, by the way, I think we're going to make changes. It softens it very friendly in the favor of counties again. Everything they seem to be doing increases more liability on towns and cities. There is more downloading, which the provincial government did under the Klein government. There is more downloading onto municipalities, more and more and more. And that is not an Alberta advantage. That's living in Alberta at disadvantage. People are having to travel now when they have to get chemo treatments all the way to Calgary instead of Red Deer. This is just one of the movements of the provincial government being superior in their thinking, in their mind, but they are not making good decisions for Alberta.
Thank you for that. It's not actually carried in this actual changes that they've made in the ICF and IDP, but I understand the sentiment that you're coming from. And I think that is more with the Fair Deal Act that is moving forward, that we have to be very aware of everything that's inclusive in that, and just keep just keep very aware and keep ourselves in tune with all the changes that are happening. AUMA is very active in trying to negotiate for us, but the problem is they're facing a situation where something comes out one week and they're making the change the next week. So they don't even have time to consult with communities and AUMA and RMA, because it's not only AUMA that's being affected by the changes. The RMA, the Rural Municipalities Association, is being affected as well. So we need to find ways to keep ourselves connected and to keep the information going back and forth and to the AUMA. And if we as a council wish to move a motion, do some action, we need to be really clear about what we want to do. Councillor Hoover.
And just further to what Councillor Stenny and Mayor Poole have mentioned, in terms of the ICF, previously this was very specific about what services were covered. Does administration anticipate that there's any services that weren't specified in there before that could possibly be considered services that benefit each municipality, policing, et cetera? So we don't expect that there's going to be any major changes.
Anyone else wish to weigh in on this? Not seen any. I think that, except for information, someone's prepared to make that motion. Councillor Hoover.
I move that council accepts this letter as information.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? All those opposed? That is just carried. Moving forward to our information items. 8.1, Building and Development Report. Any comments or questions? Councillor Taylor?
We're up 25% from last year.
Always a good thing. 8.2. Protective Services, a monthly report. And CEO Thompson, I noticed that we do have Protective Services Manager Morrison in the crowd, so if they have questions.
If there's questions, if your worship, they can be directed to the manager.
Okay, are there any questions? Director, I just gave you a raise. Councillor Stendy.
I just wanted to make a comment, actually. I wanted to thank all of the Protective Services employees that were involved in the Victim Services fundraiser the other day. It was fantastic. And I hear they raised a considerable amount of money. So if you could pass along all of our thanks to those people, it would be appreciated.
Councillor Pell?
Thank you. In regards to the speed signs, when we get those statistics, are there timestamps on the recorded speeds so that we'd be able to sort of formulate either like a time or day of week or something like the speeding is more rampant, common?
Yes, there's specific times in place as to when the traffic's moving and what speeds are coming through. And we kind of base some of our enforcement on that.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Hoover?
Yeah, I just want to comment further for the information of Councilor Pell. We did discuss this at the Policing Committee. They're actually, because it's fairly early on with the changes in speed limits, they're collecting this information, geographical and time information to give us a better picture of where the problems are. Hopefully, as that information comes, their enforcement gets more refined.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hoover. Anything else? 8.3, water system. Lead management requirements. And that's where this letter that was distributed came in. This started, of course, our department, our infrastructure was very much aware of all the issues that are included in this. So this didn't come as a surprise to them. This was most probably a result of things that have happened and their ability to send out something, but you were on top of it beforehand, weren't you?
Yes.
Yes. So there is quite an extensive process that is being undertaken. Does council have any questions regarding that? Councilor Taylor?
Just a question that brought up earlier. I believe we're a safe municipality when it comes to these concerns. Is that not correct? Could we promote that?
Your
Worship, we believe we are safe. I mean, we have a newer community. We've identified this distinct area as the old area of the community. We know that there's been a number of upgrades to the mains and services. We're unsure from the curb stop into the home what we have. Based on the water meter reading and the maintenance that our staff are doing, we really don't feel that we have have an issue with lead. However, this is mandated by the province to do the sampling, so that will prove out our thoughts on that. And if we find that there is some, then we'll put those mechanisms in place to ensure the ongoing health of our residents and consuming their waters. And we'll definitely promote the fact that we live safe drinking water.
But it will take a little bit of time before we can make that statement with.
That's right.
Okay. 8.4, municipal library minutes. And I would like to extend my thanks to the board and to the administration there, because if you go down there, we have a whole year's worth of minutes in front of us. all in one. So were there any questions from any of those? 8.5, Red Deer River Municipal Users Group highlights November 21st, 2019. And I think a lot of the emphasis from that meeting is moving forward on the protection, source water protection methods, and we're ramping that part. Reports have been distributed to all administrative bodies in our Red Deer municipal. Again, we're finding that Blackfalds is a leader as far as our source water protection in the way that we're doing it, and I think we should be proud about what we are doing. One of the things that RDRMS will be looking at over the next year is water licensing and how we should be utilizing and looking at protecting the amount of water that is in our Red Deer River. Because right now it is the only river in Alberta that has any water license left. The south, the Bow and the south are completely taken. Moving forward, Lacombe County highlights. Councillor Pell.
I did notice on here that they're allocating the FCSS funding and $24,000 and change are going to the Lacombe District FCSS. So I think it'd be interesting to know where they're planning on distributing little pet funds to, if they have already accounted for.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Councillor Taylor.
I noticed that they gave $44,756 to Lacombe Region Tourism and Marketing Association. Do we do a fair bit of marketing of Lacombe County through our economic development?
Yes.
Any follow-up on that?
Just an item of discussion, probably can bring it back at a future date.
And the Central Alberta Builder article, multiplex project. Thank you, Councillor Stanley.
So I have a question. The article on page 81, down at the bottom left-hand corner, states that the budget for this project is over $21.5 million. Where did they get those numbers?
Council Stanley, when the person talked to me, I said it was $20 million for the facility and $1.5 million at that time was for the parking lot. That's what it was. She didn't separate it in the article. She did very big. So that's where it's 20 million and then 1.5, yes. And now we had over time, this was done quite a few months ago, then we added the other $1 million for 2.5 million capital. That was
And that was tonight's presentation of the Plaza project.
That's right.
Any other questions or comments? Do you want to go back to anything? If not, I will accept the motion for accepting for information. Councillor Powell.
I move to accept the information items as information.
Thank you. Debate, all in favor? Carried unanimously. No round table and adoption of the minutes. 10.1, November 18th, standing committee member. Sorry, standing committee meeting. Errors or omissions? Someone prepared to move it? Deputy Mayor Fulford?
I'm going to be accept the standing committee minutes of November 18th as presented.
Discussion, in favor? Unanimous. 10.2, November 26th, regular council meeting. There are a few very minor ones that I believe you've already, would you just describe what those two, the minor ones were?
Moving the correct date for the agenda, as well as correcting the time for the closed meeting.
Thanks for the closing, also for the going into camera.
Yeah, in and out.
Were there any other changes, Councillor Pell?
No, sorry, I was just going to move to accept the minutes as amended.
Accepted. Debate on the motion? All in favor? That is carried unanimously. There are no notices of motion. For good of the council, I will be passing around a few of the items that we've received for Christmas cards. Two of them are cards from our schools. So I'll pass one each direction and we can make sure everybody gets it. And the other one is a Christmas card from our Board of Trustees from the Wolf Creek Schools. So I'll pass this down to Councilor Taylor and you can move it down.
Sure, sounds good.
And the last one is a Christmas card from one of the law firms. So any more that come in, since we don't have another meeting, I will forward to you via email, or if they will be available if they're in hard format at the next council meeting. Council, do you have anything for the good of council? Council Swab did send her regrets for not being able to make it tonight. She is on the mend, and she will hopefully be back with us. She will be back with us very shortly. Councilor.
I do actually, through the chair to CEO Thompson, I have a question that I've been asked a couple of times now by residents in regards to the info@blackfalds.com email address. What is the protocol for responding to emails that are received? Do we have an automatic response that goes out within a certain time frame? Because some people are not receiving anything back. So they're sending an email and they're not hearing that at all, and that is concerning to me as well as to residents in our community.
If you could forward what those emails are, it depends on what the email is, but if you could forward that on, I'll review and provide a response back to all.
Okay, would it be possible to have some sort of like auto response even to acknowledge that the email was received?
Sure, we could look at that.
Perfect, thank you.
Anything else for good council? Not seeing any. Did someone wish to move for a break?
No.
Councilor Taylor,
I move for a 5-minute recess.
and that's at 8:56. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Do you have any questions, Ashley? Thank you. Have a Merry Christmas. Have a Merry Christmas, Jill.
Thanks.